I'm at this reservation on Shinnecock territory, in what we now know as the Southamptons. I've had a really great time so far, and it's been nice to be invited into this space to meet the family members of the person that runs this residency, Jeremy, and I've gotten a lot of editing done. Like a lot, and it feels good. I wanted to do this video to talk about how I've been in transition lately as an artist for a lot of different reasons, and we're going to break this video into 3 sections where I kind of talk through different shifts. And for context, I have been a writer since I was 14. I've been a professional writer for 8 years, freelance journalist, essayist, published my first book, When They Tell You to Be Good. There's a lot of different things to unpack. But the first thing I want to talk about is how finding success and what happens after. Because there are a lot of things that come with working hard, being a marginalized artist, trying to always set yourself up for that next chapter. I feel like that was so much of what my writing career was, like always trying to get that next publication and get in the next byline and work on my book. So when someone's interested in me or my book, then I'm ready. And then when my memoir came out, I was working on my next book. And even with finishing my novel, I was thinking about my next book. And some of it is this, I don't want to say, it's almost like scarcity in terms of time. Like I always worry about, am I going to have enough time to do all the things I want to do? And I have to be really dedicated. And then you get to a point where the industry stops you. And what I mean is like, even with my first book, it was amazing. It was a great experience. But in some ways, how it was published, I felt insecure. I got reached out to personally by a really amazing writer. And then it came out, bunch of validation, book tour, moving to New York. When I was in New York, I had a great time. I was dating, I was meeting people, I was meeting other artists. Even revisiting New York this year makes me grateful that I was there before. But still, like the book tour was great. I also didn't make a crap ton of money like you always kind of imagine when you're younger. Like, I'm going to sell a book and then I'm going to be able to buy a house. Out of When They Tell You to Be Good, like collectively, I made $5,000 on my advance. I made maybe another $9,000 in royalties, which is great. Won't deny that. And then I maybe made like another $9,000 on different book gigs. And then it did lead me to teaching. So what am I talking about? It was successful. But I think in terms of our most romanticized view of success, the reality of it is much different. Like book tour was beautiful, but it also like made me aware of like how art can be this weird validation process when it gets past a certain point of gatekeepers. New York was great. But then eventually I was like, this is fucking wild. I can't afford to live here. And why am I here? Is it because of this idea of the city that I had? Does the actual city match the idea that I had? Ended up moving. Getting your dream also means that you have to live after. Like I always said when I was younger, oh, when I publish my book, like that's the only thing I need to do in my life. Like, of course I want to do other things, but that's my life's dream. And I did it at 26, 27. And so what the fuck do you do going ahead? And that's the interesting process of discovery that I think I'm in the aftermath of now, like grieving while my first book came out, writing my second book, feeling empowered by it, and then struggling to sell it last year, while I was also in this other space in my life where teaching gave me stability. And I was also learning a lot about YouTube and video and my podcast. So it's just interesting the ebbs and the flows and how sometimes it's best to not over-identify with one particular area of your life, especially as an artist. Like, try different kinds of art. That's my recommendation. And like a takeaway you can take from this section is that success isn't a final destination. It's more about our needs, dreams, and creative goals shifting, because they're always going to shift. We change, our goals and what we want change. Even what fulfills us might change, and that's okay. Moving back to Ohio and finding fulfillment. So I lived in New York for a year, and then I moved back to Ohio in 2023. And immediately I was like, oh, I still have money saved. I have money saved from like book tour. Why don't I go on this trip to Asia? Those vlogs are out on my YouTube channel or on my channel if you haven't checked it out. And I had a great time. I traveled there. I was editing. I was working on stuff. And then 2024 came, and then I got deeper into my novel edits. And I had an affordable place to live. I was getting into my podcast, getting back into different kinds of organizing. And so moving back to Ohio, I ended up being more stimulated around all of the things that kind of feed my art. And also like I legitimately had more like time and space to do work. Because like in New York, you're commuting and food is, I don't know, it's just everything takes more time, as a lot of folks know. And moving back at first it felt really empowering, and it still does. But I think now I'm kind of entering an era where I'm kind of thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have left, or would my career be different if I stayed in New York? It would be different, but would I be as fulfilled? I don't know. I don't know. It's an impossible question. And moving back, I think the fulfillment came from all those things I mentioned. More friends, more space, being able to enjoy being outside a little bit more. One thing I told myself when I was leaving New York was, as you enter this new chapter of moving back and figuring out what's even after moving back, don't hold yourself to like an idea of what your life should or shouldn't be. Stay in Ohio for a while if you want to, travel more if you want to, fucking do new and interesting things. Don't judge yourself for the different shifts or changes that your life might make. I think working through that kind of gave me some of the foundation of what ended up helping me work through crashing out when my novel didn't sell. Mid 2024, me and my agent decided we were done with my novel edits, and we ended up going on submissions, and we were on submissions from 3-4 months, but those months were rough. Of course, I was doing a lot of things. I was organizing, I was making videos, blah, blah, blah. But internally, I was talking to people, and I labeled it book submissions depression. And I said that there were 8. I said that there were 8 levels. Honestly, when I get existential, I want people to feel it. I said that there were 8 levels, and in the first few weeks, I was at level 3, which was like, oh, I don't really care. I'm getting kind of nervous. And I got to level 6, where I was just kind of like, I don't think I'm a writer. I'm not a writer. Are you a writer? I'm not. And then level 8 was like, maybe I should change careers. And I did kind of go through all those levels. And it doesn't help that, one, I wasn't able to sell my book. And that was already like a crash out thing. I ended up traveling, and that ended up being really good. And then I got back from traveling, and about a month later, 2 of my grandparents died in the same week. And that opened up all these things about like my career and romance and whether or not I'm going to have a husband and all these things about family. And I believe in the adage, when it rains, it pours. I was going through a lot. And I think all of those things happened in the way that they did. And I processed them the best that I could. But a lot of the processing was having to admit my own bitterness at the writing industry, about acknowledging how hard I'd worked on yet another book and feeling kind of locked out. Also acknowledging like, I'm not perfect as an artist, and this rejection is kind of activating a part of me that's just like, am I even good enough? Also, at the beginning of this year, I've been teaching as an adjunct professor the last 2 years, and my university had attrition, so I don't have that gig right now. Am I even having the stability that I'm claiming is something that has been good for this period of my life? And so I was going through all these internal hurdles and questions, and then grieving, and then wondering about my future. And it was rough. It was rough. I definitely cried a lot in December, rightfully so. Ended up going to Jamaica, going to my grandmother's funeral, and really having some intense and needed conversations with my family and resolving some things that I really didn't have faith would be resolved. Now that it's a new year and it's March and I'm here at this residency, I do feel hopeful. I feel more even, and the crash out is definitely behind me. It's behind me. And I think the reasons for that are, one, I know myself. In order to get to a better place, I have to like really hit like an emotional rock bottom in my own way. And I did. I also needed to work through some personal things, like figure out my relationship to anger and honesty, especially in these really intense parts of my life, like with family. And I think that really helped as well. And traveling, doing a month of humanitarian aid work, which I did at the end of last year. I just think I had a lot of experiences that centered me outside of my writing. And now that I've done so much work outside of my writing, now I realize I can look back at my novel and I actually have ideas for edits. And I kind of feel excited to bring all the things I've learned back to this book that I care so much about. And I also feel empowered enough with all the other work I've been doing media-wise to say, Maybe I do want to self-publish. Maybe I don't need a literary agent. That's something I've been thinking about. That's for another video. And so all of these things have kind of brought me here to, I'm at this residency. I've been editing a lot for the podcast, editing a lot for my YouTube channel. I've been brainstorming things I want to do this year. I've been doing this video series called Prince Gets His Groove Back. So I've been trying new things. I've been drawing, swimming. Like, this year for me is going to be about trying new things. Like, I want to learn to bottom this year. Try new things. Try new things. So thank you for watching. I hope this video kind of gives you a window into an artist's kind of existential shifts and trappings and whatever, and what it means to get through on the other side. And I thank you for watching. Comment and let me know what else you want to see, and talk to you later. This coffee's good.